I don't feel like I ever need to take vacation. Like normal days, normal work life, you're kind of counting down. When's my next vacation? What am I going to do this weekend? I haven't felt like that in 6 months because I get to step out of the RV and go experience the outdoors.
This is the Adventure Sports Podcast, where we talk to athletes, adventurers, and business owners from around the world of adventure sports. Whether you're climbing Mount Everest, starting a bike shop, or getting up off your couch to take your kids hiking for the first time, we want you to have the motivation and inspiration you need to chase that next adventure. The Adventure Sports Podcast is brought to you by Camp Crate, the leaders in fully planned self-guided backpacking adventures, as well as backpacking gear rental. You can check them out at campcrate.net. Happy Friday, everybody. We have an awesome episode today. You remember Travis. He hosted the show for quite a while, he and Kurt. Well, the cool thing about hosting this show, it tends to have an effect on you. You get to talk to so many incredible people that you can't help but do something yourself. So Travis and his family 6 months ago decided to basically rent their house out, sell a bunch of stuff, buy an RV, and live in it full time, commit to at least a year. And they are 6 months into it, and I am happy to say I think they're having a really good time. And I think this is a lifestyle that they're going to want to continue for a long time from now, especially once the kids are out of the house. So I hope you enjoy their update. We heard from them honestly, it was back in July when they were planning on it, and then maybe a little bit right when they left in September. But man, it honestly got me fired up to go do something. Makes me want to sell everything I got and host this show from a tiny RV kitchen somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I hope we can do that soon. But there's just so many things in life, and having these dreams, as you'll hear from them, sometimes it takes a decade or two, close to 2 decades before you see it's a reality. So don't give up if you're out there and you don't feel like life is really giving you much time or money or energy to put towards adventure. We just had someone else that's going to be on the show soon who didn't start their adventure career until they were almost 60. So, and they've done some incredible things since then. So it has nothing to do with age a lot of times, and she admitted that she just couldn't have done it 20 years before. So if you're feeling anxious, feeling like you got to get out, just start planning now, start dreaming up ideas and taking small steps towards that, and you never know what kind of doors are going to open. And know that you're not alone if you feel stuck in your situation. All of us, many of us out there feel the exact same way and wish we could be doing something bigger, something greater. But that time is a-coming, and this episode was a huge encouragement towards that. Few announcements. Thank you for all the new patrons. We really appreciate it. You can be a supporter of the show at patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. The link to that is actually in the show notes, so you can copy and paste that, or if your app allows it, you can just click right on that, and you can sign up for $5 a month. Not a bad investment for constant inspiration, in my personal opinion. Also, today's episode is brought to us by Peak Refuel, freeze-dried meals. Guys, you've heard me say it plenty of times before. Best meals for backpacking, for fishing out on where you can't cook your meals. I mean, whatever you're doing, you need a quick meal. Uses very little water, but very, very filling, very hearty. Go to peakrefuel.com. Use ASP20 at checkout for 20% off. Also, you can follow Jen and Travis at All the Places We'll Roll on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, especially YouTube. And that's how you can reach out and ask them about the lifestyle, advice, questions, whatever you need. Yeah, so here is the episode. Where are you guys today?
Where we at?
Starts with an H. Hurricane?
Tell them where we're at. I got to go find some.
Hurricane, I think, outside Zion.
Oh, yeah, Hurricane. I know exactly where that is. awesome little town.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah. I don't really pay attention too much to the towns. I only know, like, we're near this thing. Like last week, we were somewhere outside Death Valley, but I couldn't get it right the entire week.
Amagorsa
that's
Valley.
Mexico. Amorosa.
Amargosa.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever watched. We can't pronounce anything, especially me.
Oh, it looks a lot warmer. I don't know if it is.
It is. It's 65 today. In fact, I think I got sunburned.
Y'all, shut up. It is like, I'm looking at it right now. It's like 14 when I was coming home. 18 right now. And it's going to get down to probably 12.
You should use this one. Isn't that this one?
No, put it in your left ear. I gotta walk my wife through the whole technical. All right. Okay, so I was talking to some buddies right after work, and he's still talking about snow and how cold it is up there because I'm still trying to sell my motorcycle. So I'm like, man, you got to get that weather straightened out. Nobody wants to buy a motorcycle this time of year.
It would be useless right now.
Exactly. What? So I can park it in my garage?
So how has it been? This is pretty much right at about 6 months, right?
Yeah, we're going to be
tomorrow.
6 months tomorrow. Yeah, it's actually Jen's birthday tomorrow, March 5th, and March 5th.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah, she just turned 32. Now she's going on to 33.
Oh, yeah, 32. What's crazy, though, I was thinking earlier, it was a year ago tomorrow that I burst into his office to say, we should live on an RV.
She finally acquiesced.
Wow, so it was your idea?
Well, we had always talked about it for 17 years. So, we have been thinking about it forever. But last year on my birthday, I actually had a dermatologist appointment. And I had not seen her for 6 months because she had been out of the office. And when I went in and got the scoop of where she had gone, her and her husband and their 2 kids had taken a 6-month sabbatical to go travel Southeast Asia and Australia, Bali, all of those places. And I said, that's so weird. On the way to this appointment, I thought, maybe now Trav and I should go live on the RV. And she's like, wait, I know you homeschool. I know he works from home. Why haven't you done it already? I don't know. So, yeah, it was March 5th last year that we started this conversation again.
We wanted to do it, like she says, 17 years. We wanted to do it 17 years ago. Jen and I took a month-long road trip. We saved up money and quit our jobs, and we hopped into her Toyota 4Runner and headed out kind of down through southwest Colorado.
Sedona and Prescott and out there,
and then hit Highway 1, Pacific Coast Highway going north. And we spent a month just traveling in the 4Runner. And we were kind of on our way back. I think it was like Idaho, maybe Montana in that area. We're like, how can we figure out how to do this and make money, while we're making money? And from 17 years ago, from that point forward, we've kind of it's always been in the back of our minds. And I started pushing pretty hard, maybe 3 years ago?
I think a little more, maybe 5.
Yeah, okay. I kept pushing it, but certain things kept us from being able to do it. Daughter was in dance class and performing, around the country and that kind of thing. And it finally just got to the point where everything came to the perfect storm, where we were able to get everybody in alignment and do it. So we would have pulled that trigger, which was like this moment, oh crap, we've decided to do it. You mean we actually have to go through with it and go through all the
there was panic after we decided.
Yeah.
Wow. So did it take 17 years to get to that point, or do you think you could have done it sooner if you knew how good it was? Now, I don't know.
I don't know. It all came to the point where the right job came along, the right family dynamic came along. We weren't trying that long to do it. It was just always in the back of our minds, and I think the idea was born that long ago, I guess we would say. And I've had other jobs that kind of got close to being able to do it, and for whatever reason, I was like, well, I don't think it's quite right. So it wasn't, but we didn't push real hard until real recently.
No,
to try to make it work out.
I think sometimes too, on the trip he's talking about, we got engaged in Yosemite. And then we came back to Colorado, got married a year later. Then we had our son a year after that, and things just snowball. And now you're a family, and that is the priority. And I mean, you're just trying to figure out how to parent
Right.
for like 5 years. At least for us, it was a big transition. So it floated around, but never solidified until the pieces sort of over the last year came together.
Yeah, we don't know how long those pieces will remain in place,
right.
So it's kind of like, let's pull the trigger now and see what happens. I mean, could find out, in 2 months that things change at work and I got to go do something else, or, who knows? I hope not. But, this was the moment we were able to try and make a break for it. So we did it. So we're enjoying it and riding it as long as it lasts, or until we decide we want to do something different.
So what's your 6-month review of living on the road full time with a family of 4?
It's mostly positive. It's, I think
it's so complicated, really.
I think we adjusted very quickly. In my personal opinion, you might have a little bit different opinion, but I think we adjusted very quickly, which I think that surprised me, because you think about doing that. We were in a 1,550 square foot home and moved into a 300 square foot RV. And our RV is not big by all means when it comes to things that people live in. We're mostly talking with people that are living in fifth wheels. A lot of times it's just 2 of them, and they have much bigger rigs. So we crammed ourselves into 300 square feet. And honestly, I mean, except for a few changes that we would make, it has gone very smoothly, and the transition has been smooth. I think the review would be, it's been awesome. It's been, some things have been more of a headache than we thought they would be, like planning. You don't kind of go into this lifestyle even thinking about the planning that takes place. You think it's going to be kind of, blow with the wind and wherever we're going to go, this or that. But, we're in a situation where we do have to return to Colorado every 3 or 4 months. So our first leg was a whirlwind. It was way too much moving, way too quickly, trying to cover way too much ground. And we were having 8-10 hour drive days, sometimes twice, on both days of the weekend, just to get where we were trying to go or get back from where we went. So we really slowed down on our second leg after returning back through Colorado. And it's been a lot better, a much better experience since we did that.
Yeah, I would say for me, I don't want to say it's a mixed bag. It's not. I love this life and the lifestyle that it provides. I just think some days, like today, it's very much a normal day at home. People think, oh, you're living this adventurous life, but we did all of our normal things. We went to work. I homeschooled the kids. We have to walk the dogs after this, like very normal, except then last week there was a moment in which I was out on sand dunes with the dogs and the kids, and F-35s buzzed us and did these
really
flip
low
turns through the sand dunes we're standing on. And then there's those moments that's like, oh my God, I wouldn't trade this for anything. And then there's been moments that were scary and moments that, we took some financial hits. The dogs, I think, were surprisingly hard. I thought they would be easier to have the dogs on here. I mean, the space that we live in is perfectly fine for our family. We're used to being around each other every day. I've homeschooled the kids forever. Trav was kind of the new person coming into the life the kids and I had together.
The boss showed up. Things changed.
Sorry. Anyway, so but handling the dogs on the road is more stressful for me because I'm the one that trains them and works with them the most. So adding hours of sometimes walking the dogs, if we can't walk them together because it's a crowded park, I might have to walk 3 dogs separately and that becomes kind of stressful. But overall, I mean, there's been moments of just magic, really, that you're just like, wow.
And even the normal days, like it's funny, everything in life is relative. The normal days, as we call them normal, we have work, we have school, we got to get up in the morning and make coffee before we start working.
Always.
but I'm out like today. It's not every day because we have cold weather, rainy weather. But I'm out working at the picnic table today and shooting, images to my buddies and saying this is this morning's office or this is this week's office, and we're looking across red sand across a lake, looking at a backdrop with red mountains, and those mountains are snow capped. I mean, phenomenal, beautiful views is often the norm on a normal day for us. And I'm not trying to like glorify it, but at the same time, I don't want to let that go either, because that's what makes the experience so amazing is that you can have a normal day, quote unquote, normal day. But then to be able to step out of the RV and be in a situation where a lot of times you are camping, it takes that normal day and just puts it on a pedestal in a way, like so that I was saying the other day, like I don't feel like I ever need to take vacation. Like normal days, normal work life, you're kind of counting down, when's my next vacation? What am I going to do this weekend? I haven't felt like that in 6 months. Because I get to step out of the RV and go experience the outdoors. And it's just this crazy normal life, but it is different. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to explain it without going crazy stupid and glorifying it to the extent where that's not real. But there is that real element to it that's really, in a way, kind of surprising.
Wow. Has it been hard to work on the road?
Not at all. You know, it's crazy. So my job is to find cell coverage and find voids where cell coverage doesn't exist, and I work for a company who builds towers, in areas that need cell coverage. So inherently, I am always I got my thumb on the pulse of where service should be and where it isn't. So as far as the technological part of it and having a connection to work, that hasn't been difficult at all. I have a lot of redundancy in that. When it comes to working in this environment and working in around the family,
we might make it more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a few little issues. It's like, hey, I'm trying to focus on this, but I can walk away. I can go to, the bedroom, or a lot of times I'll go outside. Jen and the kids will, go on trips and leave the RV quiet to me, which is nice. But I've also learned to adapt to working with the surrounding noise. Sometimes I'll just throw headphones in with white noise or music and kind of go into my own little world. So you find ways around it, that kind of stuff. Often if we have cold or inclement weather, I'm just working at the dinette, which is a tiny little, booth dinette in our RV. And everybody's around here. There might be somebody sitting right across from me, but I've adapted in that way. I've adapted in the computer setup that I use. I used to use a laptop that was connected to two large 24-inch monitors, and so I had 3 screens going. Sometimes I had a 4th screen, and I always thought I needed that. I needed that to be productive, and I've been able to adapt. And I brought 1 screen onto the RV, and I used it for maybe the first 2 weeks, and then I tossed it into storage, and now I do everything I do that I've always done on a single laptop screen. And you just learn to be more efficient in how you do it. So it's been a neat learning experience in how you can kind of minimize even that part of your life and still get the same amount of work done.
How do you think, how are the kids liking it?
I think they like it. I think we definitely get mixed reviews. We talk about it a lot. They like it, but there's definitely elements where they would prefer being home. It's where we've all traded one thing for another. Mm-hmm. So you don't get all this good stuff without giving up something you really miss. And for them, it's, it is hanging out with friends and the chance to be, just to kind of arrange a time where they can go hang out with their friends and meet them face to face and, go on trips or park days and that kind of stuff with them. Their friends are all homeschooled too, but they saw them a lot, often enough that it's made a difference for them. Our son plays Xbox online. In fact, that's kind of a battle just to kind of make sure he's not playing Xbox so much, because we also don't want him to miss out on this experience. But what we do want him to do is keep the connection with his friends that way. Mm-hmm. So we kind of get mixed reviews on I think they're like 50-50 split, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think one is enjoying it much more, and the other one personality is kind of more laid back anyway, and maybe the preference isn't as obvious anyway. But I do think that at some point they might say, can we please go back?
Yeah.
So we're trying to be ready for if and when that happens.
Yeah, and we kind of always, I think on a, almost a weekly basis, we just kind of sit back, we analyze that, and we think, okay, we don't want to make anybody do this if they don't want to do it. At the same time, we want to take advantage of our opportunity. It's a unique opportunity to be able to do it. So we kind of always have to discuss the pros and cons of doing it. There are cons, but the pros so much outweigh the cons at this point. That's where we are. We're continuing because of that.
It's one of those things that, yes, they're missing something at home, but they're getting so much here. And if we stop, they'll be missing what's here and getting what's at home. So is one better or worse? No one knows. We don't know. We won't know whether this was the right choice to do as a family for another decade. You know, how will this pan out for them? What will it look like? Will it change who they become because they decide to travel or discover, oh, maybe being a ranger at a national park because I saw that is a good idea. I just think there's no way for us to predict how it's going to pan out or what it's going to mean to them in the long run. And sometimes as parents, we have to make choices that they don't always agree with.
Yeah, maybe not so popular right now, but I have to think, had I done this as a kid, that I would look very fondly back on the memories, and when you're building memories with your family, the kids don't realize the magnitude of what's going on at that time, but they will later. Yeah, I was just, as Jen was talking, I was just counting. We have a map over on the kids' bunkhouse door of all the states we've gone through, and roughly counting, we're about 21 states in the 6 months that we've covered. So their kids, although we haven't spent a bunch of time in some of those states, like Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, I mean, those were passed through on the way out to the East Coast and passed through on the way back. But our kids at this point in time have seen and experienced almost half our states in this country to just at least see what the lay of the land looks like and kind of know what to expect when they get done with school or whatever they choose to do, to think, okay, I might take a job here. Well, a lot of people will wonder what that looks like, in that state or that part of the country. And at least these guys will have a fairly decent understanding of where it is they might be considering a job or going to school or anything like that. So that's a pretty neat experience, I think.
Absolutely. And I'd have to say, my parents, when my mom and stepdad took us on a trip out west, we're in Florida, and we went out west, and I was 13, I think, and I was still into like the things we did, basketball and video games and all that, and still wanted to do those things on the trip. But looking back, I didn't realize just how impactful it was to see all that, even though I wasn't really focused on it during the trip.
Yeah.
It was looking back and said, wow, that's a huge reason why I wanted to come out here again and build a life out here. And it was this first initial really quick trip. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but it had a huge impact on the course of my life. I'm sure it is hard as parents to say, no, you don't get just how like awesome this is and how lucky you are to experience this, because a lot of people never have this chance. We all know, because we know how challenging normal life can be. You know what I mean?
Well, we were just talking about that a few minutes ago, because my father sent an email, and they're down in Florida, and he said, I'm sitting here thinking about your situation. He said, we were in our 50s. Well, he said, we're in our 40s before we took our first cruise. You guys have already done that. My parents had a 50th anniversary cruise last year that we went on together. So that was our first cruise too, in mid 40s. But the kids had already gotten to experience that. And they said, we were in our 50s before we got to see Sedona, Arizona, and you guys have already done that. And,
Yeah.
Another example, a place that they were in their 50s and able to travel finally. And it was the first time they had seen another area that we had been through. And, my father said, you guys have been there, done that. He said, and he's kind of writing the email to the kids. He said, I hope you guys realize, the opportunity that you have here and you really cherish it moving forward. And I said, it's so cool, to read that email, because what we did to get ready to go on this journey was, a massive hurdle. We had so much preparation and taking a good amount of risk to do it that, if that's what comes out of it, then we've succeeded.
Wow. So getting ready for it. Yeah, we didn't talk much about that. Getting ready for it. Did it ever get to the point where you're like, let's just not do this? It's too hard to get ready.
Yeah, it's one of those things that the momentum is the ball's rolling way too fast.
Yeah.
You just better keep up.
Yeah, keep your feet under you.
You can't change your mind after certain things. That part was so exceedingly stressful. And I think I see it a lot on Instagram, following other families that are making that transition or already on RVs, of like getting rid of all your stuff and selling it and taking it to donations and then repairing your house. Are you selling your house? Or are you renting your house? How do you adapt to work? Some people have never homeschooled. What is this all going to look like? That was really hard. I mean, once we had firmly decided about mid-May, and we left September 1st. So we had to buy a truck. We had to buy a rig. We had to research rigs. We had to kind of start from scratch. I mean, he knew a little bit more because he had been paying attention along the way of how do we piece this together.
Trying to get the family to do this.
But we had the rig 2 weeks before we left. So it's out on our street. We're throwing everything in there while we're also packing the house, doing any repairs, finishing a bathroom, trying to say goodbye to friends, which doesn't really work when we're so busy, and
trying to figure out how to rent a house.
Yeah.
We had never been landlords before.
Never.
A lot of people have sold their home, and for us, it was like, well, we can't sell our home. That's an investment to us, and we need to come back to it. So that was a whole nother element of the preparation. And then thinning down what we had in the house and everything. Yeah.
Oh man, it was shocking to see in 1,500 square feet how much crap you can end up with, right? Like, it was depressing, and we're pretty mindful, but I was just surprised. But I think one of the things too is that I just totally lost my train of thought when you're talking. It happens when we're preparing.
Man.
I know what it is. The shell shock when you finally leave. Like, we were driving out to Pennsylvania to visit my mom and my sisters and celebrate my niece's birthday. And I think we were what just happened, like exhausted, mentally tired, adjusting to a new life, but also kind of letting go of what we had just done over 8 weeks. I think it took me a little bit mentally to wrap my head around, okay, now we're on this new chapter, focus on this.
Yeah, we were in a little bit of a mental limbo for probably the first 4 weeks. It was, like you said, you hadn't quite let go of your life and your experiences and your kind of your way of living back in a sticks and bricks home, but we hadn't fully adapted and adopted our life on the rig, and already 2,300 miles across the country.
Yeah, it was bizarre land, right? Like, we were just...
I'm sure you have tried some freeze-dried and dehydrated meals before, but I promise you've never had anything close to as good as Peak Refuel. They make freeze-dried meals, which is different than dehydrated. It takes way less water to cook. It cooks a lot faster, and they cook the meals before they put everything together. A lot of companies just throw all the ingredients in there, and when you cook it, it's the first time it's ever been cooked. With them, all the flavors have cooked together. It's super tasty, and you can get 20% off by going to peakrefuel.com and using the code at checkout ASP20. Seriously, give them a shot for whatever adventures that you have planned this year. just unprecedented. I mean, what can you do to prepare for that? So how long did it take you to kind of settle in after you got on the road? Or are you not settled in?
No, I think we're settled in now. A solid 3-4 months, I would say. I don't think we were settled in the entire 3 months that we went out to the East Coast and then came back to Colorado. A lot of that is because it was rush. Of course, we're learning how to pull into RV parks and hook things up and what to do and what not to do and what places we like and don't like. There were some surprises. And then rushing to try and still see things and not make that whole leg, a big whirlwind of just driving hours through states. We wanted to still see things, but we also knew we needed to get back to Colorado. So that whole thing just went by in one big blur. And we spent 2 weeks in Colorado, and the whole time leading up to Colorado, we said we're going to re-engineer and rethink how we're doing this, because this is not the way to do it. And we finally said, okay, 4-hour drive days for the most part. I mean, we've had to break that a couple times, but not too often. 4-hour drive days would be the max. So we move every Sunday, sometimes staying in a place for 2 weeks. And then sometimes, like since we've been in the South, we've had days as short as 45-minute drive day, and some were 2 hours or something like that. So the reason I bring that up is because that mentality and that restructuring how we approached everything really let us slow down, stop and smell the roses, so to speak. And that's when we started slipping into and getting used to this life and how it all works and how we want to make it work.
Yeah, I think too, on that first leg, we were still learning how to do it, but also how to travel. What did we want out of it? We were just kind of like, Google anything. What can we do in this next town we're in? Let's try to see as much as we can. I don't think that it's not maintainable for me. I need to, slow down and pick a few things that mean a lot and not try to do everything, because you're just going to burn out at some point. And so I think there was that trend, like, how do we want to see these places kind of came over those few months, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I mean, we were also in all of that chaos, we were dumb enough to decide to try and figure out how to be producers of a YouTube channel. So, it's some of the background from this show to take over. So it helped. But yeah, it was like, okay, we also have to film all this stuff and somehow roll it into something that's semi-entertaining that people will want to watch. So during that whole thing, yeah, it was all about, adding that whole element of difficulty into it, which made it very interesting for sure.
And I think sometimes people go out, especially on this lifestyle, and I think we fell into it too. You want to see everything. You're on vacation. You might only be here once. You're on vacation, but some of these places cost a lot of money. When it comes down to it, do I really want to spend $250 to go see an aquarium at every town we're in? So a lot of it has become more picking and choosing of where the funds go, because I think a lot of people just get wrapped up in like, I gotta see and do it all, and you don't realize you're not on vacation forever. I mean, this is a lifestyle, so you have to be able to stick within your budget.
Yeah, that's a tough balance. That's a good point. Yeah,
that is a good point. How has finances been? Because you do have to. I've traveled like that on a bike, and you have to say no to things that might be staples of the area too. Like, I'm sure people are constantly like, oh, you got to go try this restaurant while you're in somewhere. Like, I can't take my whole family to this uppity place.
Drop $100.
Yeah, exactly.
Much to our son's disappointment, we're not real big. We're not foodies ourselves, so we're not big on getting out to restaurants. I mean, we enjoy it, but it's not been a big part of our life. So that doesn't bother us too much. But yeah, I mean, seeing certain attractions and things must-sees in town, there are things we have to skip. I mean,
it was the Harley tour in New York. We were like, oh, that's too much. It's too expensive.
Yeah, or it was a good hour away. Not New York, it was in Milwaukee.
Wisconsin.
It was an hour away, and it was going to cost us how much for four? Like 125, 150
Yeah, I
bucks
feel
or
like it was
something.
like
It's
125 or
like,
so.
well, that would be neat, but not $150 neat, because we still want to see other things. And yeah, it's that balance of you feel like you're on vacation, so you want to do the things
That people
like
do
you're
on
on
vacation.
vacation.
Yeah.
And that boils down to as simple as I like beer. Okay. I enjoy going out and have a pint, but my average would be like 2 pints a week. Um, but I always have beer in my refrigerator. And when I step out of an RV door into an environment like we're sitting in today, it's actually kind of hard to fight the urge to grab a beer because you're camping. How do you not have a beer when you're
Right,
camping?
right. Yeah, that's a good point.
How do you not have a campfire? Dude, do you know, and this is my biggest complaint about what we're doing right now. You know how much you spend on a bundle of wood, right? You go down to the grocery store and buy a bundle of wood for what, like $6?
Yeah.
Out here, more like $7 or $8.
Last
And
time I saw $9.99.
yeah, so if we have a campfire, it's a $14 to $20 campfire with just two bundles of wood. So you want to do that all the time. Like I want to have 5 campfires a week, but you can't. I'm not. I'll
Gotta
be.
find some free wood.
Yeah, exactly. And we haven't been in those kinds of areas, but yeah, there's just little things like that are kind of surprising. It's like, well, I can't grab a beer every night. That's just not me, and I'll be all big old fat and not be able to pedal my mountain bike if I do. But I have to resist the urge because you're kind of in that environment. Like, how do I not stare at this sunset and enjoy a beer in my camp chair? I just have to do it without the beer.
Wow. That is interesting. Yeah, it's fighting the urge to. I mean, it's so out of the norm for most people's mindsets. You got to fight the ability to want to spend money on every little thing for being on vacation. So what was the first moment for each of you where I know it was stressful at first because I got some reports from Kurt because I knew you talked to him a lot.
Oh man.
And he was like, "Oh man, the truck's having issues," or it's just a hard adjustment. What was the first moment where you were both like, "Wow, this was worth it. This is awesome. This is amazing."
I think I had that moment, and then it was pretty quickly erased. So for me, I think
it wasn't by me.
No, I think it was when we got to Acadia National Park up in Maine. Things kind of clicked at that point because we had sped across the country. We plopped down in the Poconos in Pennsylvania for 2 weeks, which was good. That was our first adjustment period after the whole house deal and racing across the country with this RV, that I've never towed. So that gave us a chance, but we were still visiting relatives at the time. So that part of the trip felt like we were just on a trip visiting relatives, like you do, like on vacation. And then after that, we left and went up into Maine and visited my brother and sister-in-law. So we were still visiting relatives again. And when we finally got to Acadia, it was like that was the first part of our journey where we had actually broken loose and managed to do what we were going to be doing with our family. And it didn't involve visiting relatives. Now, when it broke was when we realized we had major problems with the truck. And things really started to look pretty sad.
Oh man, that stinks.
The whole truck thing really had us thinking, especially when we found out what the bill was truly going to be to fix it right. It really had us wondering if we had just made a huge error and just shot ourselves in the foot. So that was my moment of realization, and then my like, oh crap, what did we do moment. So I don't know when yours was.
I would say mine is was a much more slow process. I think I was still like, what are we doing by the time we got to Acadia? I mean, it's every little piece along the way of learning how to find what you need in new towns, learning how to shop in a new grocery store every single time I go into a grocery store, learning how to have the dogs deal with other dogs, learning how to plan out where we're going. Each piece became okay, I got that. So for me, it's been this like sort of slow transition over the 6 months. And I would say, yes, we have had tons of fun and tons of great experiences over these 6 months. I would say for me personally, it's probably January and February of just now where I'm like, man, I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm so glad that each week, I might come into a new town and be like, I got to learn this all over again and figure it out. But I know that by the end of the week, I don't want to go necessarily. I still want to see what the town has left to offer or the national park we're near. So I think it's just been more of a onion layers for me than a like one moment. Oh, this is it. I'm so glad we chose this. Because I think the amount of stuff you can learn about yourself is more than a one moment experience. And that has just been a really long process for myself personally.
It definitely comes and goes in waves though. Like we had a great time down on the Gulf Coast. We left Colorado one day late and it snowed on us and we were pulling out in the snow. We were kind of going down through southern Colorado and northern Texas and it was chilly. We finally got down to the Gulf Coast and we hit the beach and it was warm and shorts and t-shirt weather again. It was like, we got here. Okay. And then once we headed out of Texas and over through New Mexico and into Arizona, we dealt with more cold temperatures, but we also dealt with government shutdown, which was locking us out of the national parks that we had decided to go to. I mean, we made a conscious effort, literally the last day we could before we left, whether to turn east and go to Florida or turn west and come out this direction. And we decided to come out west. And right after we did that, as we're heading in this direction, the government shutdown happened. So we're like, oh man, like all of these destinations we just planned on going to are shut down. And then after that, we went into, we have stories of SWAT teams showing up in the middle of the night at one of our campgrounds. And,
what happened?
Well, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
No names.
I'll try not to mention any names.
No names.
None of the names are ours. I'll just say that much. So yeah, SWAT teams showing up in the middle of the night, flooded parks, RV campgrounds to where we couldn't have gotten out, for a while. What else? I mean, just cold weather, freezing pipes. We went through this. Oh, and not being able to book anything on the coastline.
Oh yeah, we couldn't get on the coast
down by like Santa Barbara. So we kind of went through these doldrums just recently. Like, man, is this going to be a pain like this? But then we spring back. And it all comes back like Death Valley. It all bounced back.
Death Valley was amazing.
Yeah, we're like, okay, this redeemed itself.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the SWAT team. So we were in we were actually Desert Hot Springs, north of Palm Springs, and we were just trying to finish the movie.
9:20, we were watching The Flash.
We were trying to finish The Flash.
Everything's seared in my brain.
Yeah. We're just trying to watch the rest of The Flash one night, and all of a sudden we hear sirens, and whoop, 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 and then they're announcing over the loudspeaker right behind our RV. And this is a KOA. This is not. It was a decent park. It wasn't like we're in the trailers. So we look out the window and there's flashing lights and they're announcing over the bullhorn that the occupant of the RV behind us needs to come out with his hands up. They're surrounded and they're not going anywhere. So to make a long story short, we listened to this for 5 hours, and that started at 9:30 at night. So it wasn't until 3 o'clock in the morning we finally got to go to sleep.
Did this guy not come out or something?
No, he didn't come out, and I'm telling you,
for 4.5
hours. And I'm telling you, it got like scary. We're not, they evacuated the people behind us. I'm not trying to over dramatize it, but at the same time, these things we live in are like plywood, right? Like
foam and thin plywood and aluminum framing. They don't stop bullets.
We're the county sheriffs. They had their SWAT teams were out. There were armored trucks out there. We're like, oh my God, I'm shuttling the children into the back of the RV, holding my daughter. Like, please, I don't know what he did or what's going on, but please don't come out like open firing. Like, it's going to litter all of these RVs, right? Yeah. And so there was a real kind of terror and a really serene calm, like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But laying there hunkered down in our bedroom for 5 hours with 4 people, 2 dogs, holding our children, like, obviously our son thought it was pretty cool, but and as did Trav, until later.
You can't get used to it because honestly, like the first hour into it, we almost felt like we were just watching it on TV or experiencing it on the
right.
We listen to it outside windows, and at one point I was back in the bunkhouse looking because we had like front row seats to the whole thing if we wanted them. I was watching out the window, and I had come to the conclusion that the guy inside the motorhome had pretty much taken care of the situation on his own inside the motorhome. Like they were just going to have to go in and pull him out because he was not.
That's what everybody thought because it was hours.
And I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden the blinds to the motorhome fly open, and there's the guy they're looking for, lit up in lights in the windshield. I'm like, oh man. And then a little bit of argument and stuff, and he closes the blinds again. And that's when I hightailed it back to the front room because like this guy's kind of come out blasting because you could tell he just wasn't interested in playing the way the SWAT team wanted him to play. So it got real interesting at that point. But they finally tear gassed him out and got things shut down by about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Noises. I yelled some bad words. The kids were like, I mean, the noises, what was that called?
Flashbangs. Yeah, they lit that thing off. And it rocked like everybody was just so loud. They tear gassed them. The SWAT team was coming around. They're like, close your vents. We're going to tear gas this guy out of here. I mean, it was like a full-on cops episode.
That's what happens when you don't pay your lot rent, right?
I guess. Probably not. We don't want to like bring it on the KOA. They were great.
It was apparently a domestic violence dispute between he and his lady friend. So luckily it wasn't like anything that anybody else was in harm over. And he was a vet, and it's just they were handling it very, very cautiously. And I'm glad they did because he finally came out peacefully, and I'm sure they're getting that ironed out. But it made for a very interesting night.
That's just something you just don't foresee happening when you're planning to live this lifestyle.
Oh, no.
I may have second guessed it for like the second time, the day after that.
You can talk to 100,000 people that live on an RV, and maybe one will have some sort of story that rivals that. So, I mean, this is not like, oh, you're going to move in an RV and you're going to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the SWAT team is just everywhere. Time for a quick message break. So, the show's brought to you by Camp Crate. They specialize in self-guided, pre-planned, all-inclusive backpacking adventures, as well as trip advice, and as well as camping gear rental. So if you're in need of any of that stuff, reach out to them at campcrate.net. Very helpful and very knowledgeable. It's a great way to try backpacking for the first time or to scroll through their list of itineraries if you need some ideas on where to go. They will literally send you all your gear, your food, permits, coffee even, in a box to your front door. Use it for your trip. When you're done, return it with the pre-printed included return label. It's that easy. It makes backpacking and getting into the backcountry very approachable, very simple. Give them a shot. Now, back to the episode. It obviously seems a lot harder than normal life in a lot of ways, but it also seems a lot more, you just don't know what's going to happen by the end of the day, and that kind of makes it exciting. And good, big and small moments, like, wow, this was an awesome day at work because I looked out over the red sandstone mountains, or, got to see the place I never thought I would, or an experience with my kids I never thought I'd have. And I don't know, that's got to be appealing to, you kind of settle into that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, you do. And, that stuff has happened. We have some fun and interesting stories like that. But the reality is, I was just talking about this yesterday. It really occurred to me. I used to have a hard time sleeping, like getting to sleep. I mean, it would take me, if it didn't take me 45 minutes to fall asleep, I was having a good night. It was usually 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours just to fall asleep.
Dang.
And ever since, literally since the day we left on this RV 6 months ago, I have not had a single night where I wasn't asleep within 10 minutes of wanting to fall asleep.
Why do you think that is?
I think things have just simplified so much. And I think we made it sound, bonkers, exciting and stressful with our little story there. But the reality is life has simplified so much that right now there just aren't those things that used to occupy my brain when I laid down to go to sleep, like they did. And it's an amazing transformation. It'll be interesting to see when we do move back into a house if they come back. But yeah, I mean, years I spent having a hard time get to sleep, toss and turn, and I've not done it one single night that I can recall in this RV. So yeah, it's just, you live on a small thing like this. You have, these are our possessions that we need to worry about right here. I mean, the rest of them are stored, in the storage at home, but this is all we have to worry about is this situation. And it's simplified things so much that I think it just takes a lot of that worry, concern, and stress out of the way. Just like right now, it's just one step at a time. That's all we need to worry about.
Yeah, it's really, I kind of learned recently to focus on the next 24 hours. We have no idea what's coming down the pike. As much as we can think we know what's coming, weather can change, our plans can change. We're trying to constantly figure out, well, how long are we going to do this? When are we going to go home? I don't know. The reality of living like this is less about next week and more about, okay, what do I need to do today? What gets me through today? What experiences might we have today? And you do have to be sort of ready for whatever might show up.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of calm, normal, lovely days where we just kind of putz around and just more outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was Death Valley for us. I mean, we all commented that, when we were in Death Valley, we just left it. It was just one of these days where there was no agenda. We didn't have to go out of our way to go find something, see something. We were based right in the park, so we could go out in the morning and have a hike and check out a few sites, come back, have some lunch, check on the dogs, actually get the dogs. We took the dogs with us the second time, go out and see some more sights. And it was just this day of milling around and relaxing. And it was just so nice. And it was like, those are the moments or those are the days that you do it all for,
Man, I'd say we love road trips, and Death Valley is one of our favorite places. I think it's really underrated.
It is.
But I kind of want it to remain that way because tonight it's an escape. They're so big and vast, and there's hardly ever anyone there. There's always room, it seems like, for one more. And man, I tell you what, I get that feeling. Our road trips are about the only time where it's like we're focused on finding a place for a night's sleep. I'm not worried about 10 years down the road, which right now I'll follow. If at night I'm worried about things that are out of my control, that are just so big and so far away that it does no good worrying, but you can't help it. I don't know why it's life seems to do that, but I would say the closest thing I've experienced to what you're doing right now is those road trips. And that's where it all kind of focuses in, and you just have so many good experiences throughout the day and tough ones too. But man, that is fantastic. Do you see yourselves, could you see yourself doing this longer than what you planned on?
Oh yeah. But that comes with
I want to hear from both of you.
Yeah, we joke that every time we're driving down the highway, we're still like, that looks like a good setup for when the kids move out. Or that really looks like we would be able to handle it with like a dog just fine. And like, what might work for us when the kids are gone. I think we love it. I mean, overall, minus some of the more exciting bits, we do love it. We kind of joke that we have ADD, but I might swear to it like that I probably do, because they didn't diagnose people with that when I was a kid. Right. And I but maybe they should have. I get bored really easily, as does Trav. So in many ways, I find this journey very exciting, and it's never boring. I mean, I think maybe one day in the last 6 months, I might have been bored and like, well, why is it boring here too?
Well, what do you think of? You're bored, all of a sudden the flash flood comes
what
through
happens?
And closes off the campground and you're able to get out and get groceries.
Or no Starbucks for me that day.
Oh my gosh.
But the whole process is just, it's enjoyable. It's fascinating. I love learning about myself. And like you're saying, both of you are saying, the transition to being more present in our life is almost like a requirement. And it's been a hard adjustment for me because my brain likes to control things, like you said, but you can't. And so there's something to be said about what we're learning that we like and enjoy as people outside of what the busy life is at home, that kind of keeps you from finding out more about yourself in some ways because you're so busy being for other people or showing up for other events and doing your job. And I don't know. I see that even if we end up back home because the kids are like, we're done, we want to, our son is in 9th grade now. So at some point he'll probably want to be home. There are not very many teens that travel full time. So we've really struggled with finding them people to hang out with. And, teens are more reserved. A 6-year-old will run out and play with any other 6-year-old out in the RV park. But a teenager is not going to run out and introduce themselves to the RV pack that's running around. They're just more standoffish, and it takes a while. So I do think we'll end up back because of that. And I think, I like my friends. I miss my friends.
Yeah, we miss our friends. That's one of the downsides.
Yeah, I miss my women's group that got together for over a decade every month. Book clubs and our homeschool parents that we shared some kind of relationships with. So, but I do see that this will be probably part of our lives until we're done.
Yeah.
Later, like in our 80s.
At this point, we want to try to do it in our empty nester years. I think we made the joke the other day that the day we realize we've stopped pondering other smaller rig setups that we can do in empty nester years is the day we have our sign that we're tired of it, because we're, like she said, we're constantly looking at other, like, okay, what if we towed a small trailer or had a camper inside the truck, or we did the van thing, like that. So we're always looking ahead at how we can, twist this or, pivot this to a 2-person, 1-dog type scenario. And so it very much interests us to do it after this part of this journey. And it'll be a totally different journey at that point. We'll move differently. We'll have different interests than we do traveling with a couple of teenagers. And we might slow down and stop places a little bit longer and take more hikes, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we definitely, I would like to do it much longer down the road, looking off into the future.
And then, too, my little asterisk is, if I've learned one thing, don't make plans. Who knows? Who knows what the world's going to be like in a decade for us, in 5 years for us, in 2 years for us, in 20 years for us. So just one day at a time. The story's unfolding, and instead of trying to control every chapter, I'm sort of standing back and letting it tell itself.
And take the time to soak it in. That's the hard part. Don't let it fly by. We're just every one day at a time, but make sure each one of those days you actually soaked in a little bit of it so you can remember it, because it'll be over in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
Yeah, relatively speaking, it could be for sure. And Jenny, you're talking about, you've learned a lot about yourself. Has that been a surprise of something you didn't expect to happen? You've mentioned that quite a few times.
Well, I think and I'll be open here, I've had anxiety my whole life. I think I only really realized that's what it was in my early 20s. And
so this lifestyle seems like worst case scenario for that.
Right. You got anxiety. You live in an RV.
Well, see, I had traveled in bits and pieces. I'd been to Sedona. I'd been to Australia. Did it, skydived in New Zealand. Did that. Who knows how someone with anxiety makes that happen. I think what this has taught me is I'm capable of so much more than I thought I was. Awesome. And it's one thing, ASP talks about all the time. What are you capable of? You don't think you are. I mean, even we were listening to Jeremiah Foos's episode yesterday on the way here. He doesn't know if he's capable of the Appalachian Trail. I don't know if I'm capable of living on an RV, but I want to try. So, and I'd like to do the Appalachian Trail one day too. It's not somebody. Know. You just never know, right? So, I think it's finding the confidence each time we get through one thing. Now, that doesn't mean when the thing is going on, I'm not freaking out.
Hey, she is.
Because I am. but I've settled into this sort of sense of knowing that mostly things are going to be okay. And that is a gift, I think, for anyone, whether you live with depression or anxiety or whatever experiences you have. You can push yourself to try things, and it just might work out.
What is, I mean, it's what would you tell somebody who a family like yours who might be wanting to try this but have a lot of anxiety or feel like it's not doable? What's some of the biggest key pieces of advice that you've learned in the last 6 months of trying to get out there and try it?
You know, one, everybody always says, you know what, just do it. It is so true. So many people can waste so much time trying to prepare the right way, to get everything perfectly in line for the trip of a lifetime, the thing they're going to do. Whether they're saving up, just the right amount of money, or they're just piling the right gear, the right rig, or the right setup, or the perfect moment. And that's never going to happen. If you keep striving for that, it's just never going to happen. We heeded that from research and listening to others, and we said, okay, we're going to buy a small rig, the smallest thing we think we can fit on, and not kill each other. Didn't have the budget for a $60,000 diesel pickup, so we took our chances on the truck that we have, and we've had to put money into it, but it's been okay. We started simple, is what I'm saying, and we didn't sit there and try to wait until we had everything dialed in so we could afford the big toy hauler and the perfect truck. We knew that if we were going to catch this wave, we needed to go ahead and do it with what we had and within the means that we had available to us. So don't paint this big picture of this grandiose journey. Just start out with what you can get your hands on and start out now. It's gonna be a little risky. It's gonna be a little risky for anybody, unless you're a millionaire and you could care less, what happens to your vehicles or this or that. There's going to be some risk involved, but that's part of it. It's part of the journey. And I think, like Jem was saying, those are the things that hopefully make you grow in the long term. We've had unexpected things that hurdles we've had to clear, and we have. And what that taught us is that, well, there's some pretty huge surprises in this journey, and we got to cross those hurdles, and you know what, we're just fine on the other side of them. So it's just, don't overthink it. Just go ahead and do it. And, obviously do research to get yourself a good starting point, but don't over research either, because you can just get lost in the, in the ether of YouTube and blogs and,
all those
Instagram.
things that people might follow.
I mean, definitely follow YouTube. A good channel to follow is ours.
You guys.
But don't get lost on all the other ones and overanalyze everything. So just keep it simple and don't overthink it.
Yeah, I would add to that the longer you wait, the easier it will be to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
That's just the way we are as humans.
Or your friends or family.
Or your friends
don't
might poo-poo your idea. Or say, why would you do that? And you're just going to start second guessing everything that you thought was pretty solid in your own spirit.
I do hear that a lot. People say, well, I have people that try to talk me out of it or said I was crazy to do it. I think we've had 100% complete support from family and friends when we decided
that's really cool.
Yeah, I can't think of a single person that was like, what are you, crazy? Everybody was supportive.
No, yeah. I mean,
cool.
Some people think we're crazy because they would never imagine living with their families on this really tiny space.
Right.
Which is fair.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, hopefully that's, doing that is something we'll grow from and take something, in a positive away from this, and not let it drive a wedge between us. And I think even in my own personality, I'm the, do you know the 70s show, that 70s show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes think I'm the dad.
You're Red.
That I'm Red, in my,
the sort of grumpy, stern guy.
Yeah, I don't understand what goes through teenagers' minds, and how could I possibly live in 300 square feet with them? But I think, and my teenagers might disagree, but I think I've turned a bit of a corner, and I've been maybe beaten into submission, on having teenagers so in such close proximity. But I think this whole journey is kind of helping me relax with things like that and maybe let things go a little bit. It's a slow process. Now, don't get me wrong. I've not done a full change in 6 months, but I think it's helped a ton. And that's something I want to take out away from this journey with me, to just be more understanding to situations that might not be the most logical situations in my mind. You know, that's kind of a big deal for me and my personality.
It's a big deal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just thinking as we're talking about this that I read a book once where the author was comparing life to walking on a thin sheet of ice. And we never know how thin that ice is. And life is like that. And if people, which again, we all do, can talk themselves out of trying something that's challenging to their comfort, their personality, their fears, any of that, take it, you know, like, I mean, even just the sort of news that Luke Perry died today may not,
that's right. Yeah.
I think you're a little younger than us, but he was a huge kind of person when I was in high school, early college, right? We all watched 90210. He's 52. My sisters are older than that right now. I'll be 46 tomorrow. That's just not, you just never know. That sheet of ice that we're all just balancing on, you know, you might as well try to live the life that is exciting and keeps you at least joyful and mindful, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you guys reflecting on that, because I don't know. I know it just feels so daunting when you have this life. I mean, even for us, I have a past of doing stuff like this, and it's just, I can feel the pressure of normal life just as days go by. It just weighs on you, and this feels farther and farther away. And due to social media, a lot of times you in marketing, you feel like you need more and more stuff figured out before you try it. But like I got to the point a few summers ago where I felt like I needed a Sprinter van to go camping, just because it was like subconscious almost. I was like, oh, I can't do that. I don't have a $60,000 Sprinter van. And then I just saw an article of this guy of like he's like, I go camping in the mountains with my little Corolla every weekend, and you just do it. I was like, I have a truck. Like, I don't need a, like, you just weird the psychological effect, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's great to hear from you firsthand that, like, no, you don't need that. Just do what you can with what you have, and get most everything ready as best you can, and then go for it. And know that tons of stuff's going to fall apart, and plans are going to change constantly, and floods and SWAT teams and government shutdowns. You just don't foresee any of this happening. But guess what? You guys are out there, and guess who isn't? Everyone else that feels like they need all this stuff first. You know, you're out there doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think other people would do lots of other interesting things if we all just weren't so afraid. If we weren't just afraid to take that risk. And I think it's not that other people don't want to, it's just that getting over that hump of trying something different. I mean, I can say scrolling through Instagram constantly of like, wow, we're RVing wrong because we had a SWAT team last night and all our outfits don't match and our whole RV is not painted white. So we're doing this whole RV life wrong because everybody else looks happy and ours is still covered in 80s garb because we didn't want to spend money on redoing our RV.
So, 80s? It's not an 80.
It's like, well, no, it's a 2014 RV.
They never changed how they did RVs.
The whole
it's a 2014.
Is like oak paneling, right?
Right.
They still are ugly.
Somehow we're doing it wrong because it doesn't look like theirs. But no, we're doing it how we can. And I think just taking a leap of faith once in a while is terrifying. I mean, if we just sat here and said we weren't terrified when we decided this, we would be lying. We were terrified. Like, is this right? When you get that huge financial hit, it was $10,000. What? Can't even breathe.
Yeah, that's panic inducing to me.
Yes.
You know?
So, gosh, we turn around. What do you do? I mean, I was in tears, right? So.
Oh yeah, I would be too.
It doesn't make it not worth trying. So it's tough. I think a lot of people sit on a lot of dreams for a really long time, and we sat on this one for 17 years. And is it perfect? No. Are we glad we're trying it? Heck yeah.
And it's darn good.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you guys are doing it. Like that's the difference. I tell people all the time, like, if you got to spend an extra $2,000 for the highest end gear that someone says you need, but that keeps you from doing the experience, I'd say buy the Walmart gear and carry the extra weight if that's the difference of doing it or not, because that extra 10 pounds over the course of the whole AT is not gonna. That's just gonna wash away in the end. That's gonna be. They just don't know what they're missing until you get out there.
Well, I think you got something funny to talk about to the other guys that have spent all the money on the gear. You're like, got my pack from Walmart. Yeah, it's got duct tape and zip ties wrapped around it. You know, it's all fixed up. But hey, I learned how to fix a Walmart pack on the trail while I was out here. What'd you do?
Exactly. You had it easy because you got all the gear. And
that's right.
You know, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about a SWAT team and matching outfits in the same sentence. And I don't think you would have ever had that to talk about before you did this. So.
That's right.
That would be my wife. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Wasn't it you who said all these things are happening so that you have art later? Yes.
Yeah. I just heard that the other day. I mean, I guess it's like a popular saying. I'd never heard it, but it's great pain. Great art comes from great pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, all the best things that we look at usually came from an artist who was pretty miserable at the time. And
actually, Mason, I've talked people through those situations where you're just in a real pickle and things are miserable at the time. You know, you're on some adventure and you're sitting there, and that's the moment where everything cracks, or it could crack if you let it. And you're just thinking, why am I up here? Why did I get myself into this? I could be on my couch at home. But those are the moments that you have to stop, pause, and look at and say, this sucks right now, but it's going to be a great story over a beer next weekend.
Right? Yeah.
Because we are through this. It is going to hurt. I'm going to be sore, or whatever the problem is going to be, the ailment's going to be. It's going to make for a great story, and it's going to make for a good chuckle. And if you can focus on that part of it, that goes for any part of life, then that's how you get through that kind of stuff. And in some ways, I almost kind of welcome the situations. I don't want $10,000 truck repairs. But
stop.
Look, man, you adventure and you do journeys for the adventure of it, and then you complain about adventure when it shows up on your doorstep. You know, embrace it.
I'm gonna write that down.
You know, that's what you do. So no, we had our $10,000 truck repair. I don't want any more. So
I don't want any more. And then we were actually recording a video a couple weeks back where Trav said, and then there was that tornado. And I looked at him, and for a second, he was talking about an airplane. But for an actual second, I thought, wait, did we survive a tornado
we had that too? It was no actual.
It would surprise me if we did, but wow, how did I forget?
That's right.
If you guys do this lifestyle long enough, it'll get to that point where you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that SWAT team for 5 hours. I forgot all about that.
I've seen what trailers behind vehicles do in tornadoes. I don't want to be a part of that adventure. No. I won't welcome that.
No. Goodness gracious, y'all. Thank you so much for doing this. This was fantastic. I think the listeners are really going to appreciate that. Not only, Travis, did you guys start the show and talk to all these incredible people, but you let it get to the point where it changed you enough to go out and do it too.
It did. It really did. Talking to so many people doing the things, and just, Kurt and I had many conversations like, why are we talking to people, and stressing about recording, but talking to people that are doing this and not out doing it ourselves. And it wasn't as simple as that. We had other reasons to move on, but yeah, the show had a big part in me really kind of pushing to fulfill this dream, and I'm so glad we did. And I have to say, man, listening to the show, you have done a bang up job taking it over. I think you've done wonders with the show. You've taken it to the next level. I think you're on to big things, and I'm so grateful that you were able to take the show over and keep that legacy alive, because ASP has always been a great show. It was always our baby, and I'm so happy that somebody can take it to the next level. So good on you for doing that.
Oh, well, thanks for the opportunity. I It's been a lot of fun. I think it came at the right time, and I'm just very thankful to be able to carry it on, what you guys built. It's an honor, honestly.
Well, you've done us proud, so we're appreciative of that for sure. So now we'll go on with we're learning videography and how to speak to an actual video camera. It's been a little goopy for sometimes, but we're nut jobs anyway. So
he's way better at it than me.
Our stupid acts, hopefully come through as funny acts to those laughing at us. We hope they're doing
how
more
we really are,
laughing
though. We're
with
kind
us
of
than laughing at
silly.
us. But
Wow.
yeah, the YouTube thing's been a lot of fun. So it's been a neat transition. I enjoy doing that.
And I mean, it's a new skill. You weren't a podcast expert before starting ASP, so that's a skill you just learned out of the blue. This is as well.
That's right. It's just like any of these journeys. You just got to tackle it. You got to dive in, and you know what? It's not going to be perfect, and but you're going to learn as you go. And if you continue to work at it and have interest in it, you're going to develop it and hopefully turn something else out that people are interested in. So that's our goal here with this one as well.
Wow. Well, man. Well, congratulations. I know the show and all the listeners, very proud of you guys, and wish you the best of luck to keep up the good work and be an example.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to do so. Try to provide funny entertainment and magical views for people to. We hope to entice people to come try to do the same thing. And if it's not RV life, then go do your own thing. But if I can entice
whatever
people
that is,
to get past their fears and over the hurdles and go try something new, then that was always the point of the podcast, and that's still the point of the YouTube channel.
Exactly.
So.
Get out there, try something new, have some fun.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Sounds like this show. Well, yeah, your kids are probably trying their hardest to be quiet, huh? So.
Yeah, they've been good. We've talked really long, so I appreciate
dogs still have to go for walking.
No, yeah,
You're
same here.
Too.
Well, that's why I kept muting my mic, because he's right outside the door trying to get in here and say, hey, I got to go. So, well, thank you guys, and have a great time. I look forward to the next update.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely.
All right, see ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Right, bye. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the episode. Secondly, if you would like to get in touch, you can leave us a voicemail at 812-MAIL-POD. You can also send us an email, info@adventuresportspodcast.com. Get a hold of us on Facebook, Instagram. Contact us on the website. There's just 1,000 ways to do it. If you know somebody that would make a good guest for the show, whether it's you or somebody you know with a really cool story or background or does an interesting sport, get in touch. We'd love to have them on. Also, if you'd like to be a patron, aka a supporter of the show, patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month. You can sign up for $5 a month. And lastly, thank you to our sponsors whose messages follow right now. If you want to save 20% off the best backpacking food on planet Earth, go to peakrefuel.com and at checkout, use the code ASP20. So after all of this outdoor talk, if you're looking to plan your own getaway, head to backpacktribe.com and get ready for your next adventure. They have customized gear bundles and free shipping, and they'll be able to get you ready for any adventure that you want to tackle. Check them out, backpacktribe.com.